So rare blood clot in 6 women, and again, they temporarily pulled it off, and now they're reviewing the data. So what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at if there's an increased rate of blood clots in people who have had the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, but say it's just the blood clots in those women, and those are like the ones we know about. Well, how many vaccines have been given out so far? Well, let's see. There's around, according to this, there have been, I think how many, nearly 7 million people have had the Johnson vaccine. So let's just do little calculations here. So 6 divided by 7 million people who have had it. And then to convert to percentage, you multiply by 100%. So that's the percent chance you'll get that clot, assuming that these are the ones that are reported. But what's your lifetime risk of developing, say, a clot elsewhere in your body, like a thromboembolism? 1 in 12 middle-aged adults. So let's see, granted, the women, I think they ranged in age from like younger to older, so this isn't a comparable group, but there's like in middle-aged adults, there's like an 8% chance of developing thromboembolism. So this is, does that mean that this is causing, or it can't cause it altogether? Well, what they're doing right now, and they should do if they're being responsible, is look at the overall percentage and everyone who has the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and then see, okay, what's the percentage of people who are getting it? Then look at everyone else who's living their life, or they have the other vaccines, or haven't had a vaccine. Basically, the other set of people who haven't had the Johnson & Johnson, and see what's the percentage of people that develop that clot. If it's around the same, then they'll say like, okay, maybe it's like these women did develop a clot, but it wasn't at an above average rate than you would without the vaccine. And that's what happened in Europe. That they actually halted trials. I think it was AstraZeneca that had a temporary pause, and they saw like the clotting in people who had AstraZeneca wasn't any more of a increased probability than people who didn't have the AstraZeneca vaccine. So, but the thing is that, does that mean we should ignore these things? No, of course not. But at the same time, it's like, when you get this kind of vaccine, especially any sort of new treatment, not just vaccine, the thing is that we're always kind of looking like, okay, follow up, what happens to these people? Do they experience any sort of like health problems after a vaccine? So it is good that they're doing this to make sure like, hey, there's not increased risk of developing these rare blood clots those women had. So again, if you've had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, because I know some of my friends who have had it, and they're kind of freaking out like, am I going to get a clot? And I'm like, hopefully not. But look at the overall reported cases versus everyone else who has had it. It's not a zero risk, but it's a very, very, very small risk. Again, Johnson & Johnson, this is the percentage we know about of people who have had the vaccine and developed those clots. And this is the lifetime risk in terms of percentage of developing a thromboembolism in middle age. So again, it's not a big risk, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's there. We have to just do the stats and make sure that this really is okay.